Alien Collective the Second, The Link. Alien Collective the Second, The Link. Focus question. Who should Carlotta's trust? Artie or the Resistance? Why do you think that? Carlotta wasn't sure how long she had been in the room, which had no windows and only 2 doors. She found that she could get out of bed and walk around when Artie wasn't there, but she couldn't open the door that led outside. The other door led to a small bathroom with a shower. She slept often, and when she woke, food would be waiting on a small shelf in the corner. Sometimes she woke to find herself unable to move, which means Artie was there for one of their chats. I remember everything now, Charlotte thought, focusing on Artie. It was the first time she had tried to talk using the collective link. Her head still hurt, but the pain had gone down enough to think more clearly over the last few days. Do you know? Artie's voice appeared in her mind. Where are you? Charlotte asked, walking around her room. Not far. Would you like to come out of our room and chat? Charlotte felt excited at the thought of getting out of the room. Maybe she could find a way to escape. Something that sounded like a chuckle echoed in her mind. When you leave your room, Artie said, head down the hallway to your right. You'll find me in the observation room at the end. The door slid open as she drew near. She squinted in the bright sunlight from the wall of windows on the other side. Outside, she saw green hills dotted with trees and a small city rising up in the distance. She realized that she must be in the tower that the Resistance had attacked. If she could get out, she could make her way back to the compound in less than a day. In the empty hallway, she turned to her left and moved quickly toward the doorway at the end. As she came close, the large door slid open, but a flash of blue light covered the opening. It tingled when she pressed her hand against it and was as solid as steel. She wouldn't be getting out that way. She turned around and made her way past her room again and down the hallway. As she walked, she passed a few other small doors that didn't open and wondered if the aliens were doing tests on other prisoners as well. At the end of the hall, she came to another large room that opened. She reached out with her hand to feel for a shield, but it passed through easily. The windows continued inside the room, and she could still see the hills and grass to her left. Artie was standing with his back to her, still wearing the same red robes. The alien didn't move when she entered. She was staring at the bright white room beyond the windows. As Charlotte drew closer, she saw rows and rows of small black pots filled with dark, rich soil. Those at the bottom had tiny green shoots sticking up, and the plants grew larger in each higher now. What do you think of our little nursery? Artie asked. Charlotte didn't respond. This area used to be covered with trees like these, which are native to this part of the country. But we made a few changes. The trees now grow faster, live longer, and remove more pollution from the air. Artie smiled proudly at Charlotte. I'm sure the next Arbor Day celebration will be a real blast. Thanks to you, she said. For some reason, speaking out loud seemed like a form of protest. With a grunt, Artie turned and walked to the right side of the room. The rolling hills stretched into the distance, but the grass ended at a line of burnt trees beyond which the ground was scorched and large creatures dotted the hillside. The destruction ended abruptly in front of the building where the blue shield must have stood. Nearly 50 humans died in the Resistance attack on this tower, Artie said sadly, and many others died or were injured in other places around the world. How many were Resistance? Charlotte asked. What difference does it make? You're all humans, and all members of the same species. The people working with you are traitors. While it's said that they died, it was necessary for the cause of freedom. You repeat your father's words well, Charlotte, but I wonder if you truly believe them. Of course I do, she said. Remember, I've seen what you've done. Thousands open, thousands of worlds destroyed in so many ways. It's terrible, and you're not going to do that to Earth. Artie flashed his awkward smile. I think you need to search those experiences again to see what's really happening. Charlotte again saw images of destroyed civilizations in her mind, so many that it was difficult to focus. She tried again and again, but she couldn't find that she was looking for. Nothing showed that the collective had actually caused any of the destruction she was seeing. That didn't prove anything, however. Plants with life are rare, but the universe is so big that it has vast numbers of them. This galaxy alone has more than 100 billion planets similar to your own. It's only now, however, that your species is making contact with beings from another world. Artie's voice echoed in her brain. Why do you think that is? Charlotte found it a little hard to speak with so much destruction running through her mind again, but at last she said, too far. That's a good starting point. Getting to space requires a certain level of technology, and traveling between stars is even more difficult. Still, with so many worlds out there, why didn't some of them contact Earth before the collective? Still upset from what she had just seen and felt, Charlotte shook her head and wiped tears from her cheeks. Artie gave her a disappointed look as if he had accepted more from her. It's really very simple. They destroy themselves. Coming up with new technologies isn't that hard. Learning to use them safely and responsibly is the real challenge. Breakthroughs in science are extremely dangerous. You've seen many examples of what can go wrong. Charlotte let go of the experiences, feeling the terrible destruction fade to the back of her mind, and asked, You're saying we should all just hung Earth and each other? Artie let out a low growl that she realized with a laugh. That does sound rather sappy, doesn't it? Really, though, your species just needs to stop being so selfish. I've been kidnapped by alien tree huggers. Charlotte groaned. We are trying to help your species as it transitions into an advanced intergalactic civilization. You didn't really ask if we wanted to transition. It was unavoidable. As you know, we've seen this happen many times and it always ends the same way. With your power sources, uncontrolled consumption, overpopulation, and complete disregard for the environment. You would have destroyed yourselves, and we couldn't allow that. How do you know? Charlotte snapped. Maybe we could have transitioned on our own. Besides, you gave you the right to decide. We're free to destroy ourselves if we want. There's always a chance of natural transition, yes. But help from the collective greatly increases the chance of success. You're free to destroy yourselves, except you'd take everything else with you, and the loss of any habitable planet is a tragedy. So the answer is to surrender. Let you take over and give up our freedom. Just accept that we are your slaves, because otherwise there was an off chance we might have blown ourselves up. I'm not sure that's a fair trade. As they watched, human workers left the tower and began to fan out into the field. Some carried bags of seeds that they sketched in front of them, while others had shovels and saplings ready to be planted. It's a matter of perspective, Artie said. You won't win. It's not about winning, it's about survival. You may come to see that soon, however. As much as I have enjoyed our talk, you need to return to your room to rest. Tomorrow, we'll do the second procedure. Pain, darkness. A planet dying. Explosions. Where? People yelling. The collective landing in ships. Something roaring. Another planet ending. Charlotte felt herself being lifted off the bed and carried. She tried to fight, but every movement sent waves of pain through her body. There was a burning smell. She tried to open her eyes, but everything was moving and painful, so she closed that again. The collective was there, all of them. A moment later, darkness took her. Charlotta woke to her dad's face looking down on her. "Morning, sunshine," she said, breaking into a broad smile. Charlotta immediately hugged him. "How long have I been gone?" she asked as she looked around. She was in one of the rooms at the clinic in the compound. The room had light green walls, strangely similar to her room in the street. The only real difference was the window along one wall. "About 10 days," he said. "We brought you here 3 days ago, but you've been out cold the whole time." Charlotta's head hurt, but not nearly as bad as it had when she woke up in the alien street. She couldn't remember much of what happened after her talk with Artie in the observation room, just that she had returned to her bed and fallen asleep. Had they finished the procedure? The last time it felt like an avalanche of information, but now she felt almost completely normal. "Are you feeling okay?" her dad asked. Charlotta nodded and said, "Just a bit of a headache, but I'm fine, mostly hungry." Her dad laughed. "Of course you are. I'll see if I can get you some food, and I'll let the doctors know you're awake," he said and left the room. Charlotta lay back down and rubbed her temples. Her mind felt clear, as though nothing had ever happened. She examined her thoughts and her memories. Nothing felt jumbled, out of place, or twisted, but would she really know if it were? Cautiously, she thought about one of the civilizations that had been destroyed, the planet with the violet-tinged ocean. Suddenly, the entire collective's experience rushed into her mind as if she had opened a computer file. The images and information crisp, clear, and self-contained. She tried another planet with the same result, then another. Soon, she was scrolling through them faster than she could have imagined, but this time emotions were also there. Pain, fear, anger, and terrible sadness. The amount of information being dumped into her brain made her a bit woozy. So she stopped. Her mind was back to normal again. She was still thinking about what she had seen when her father returned with something to eat. She quickly forgot about anything else. "You must be starving," her dad said as she tore into the sandwich and soup. Charlotta just grunted and took another bite. When she finished, she handed her empty plate and bowl to her dad, suddenly sleepy. Just then the door opened and a doctor came in, looking at a chart. "How are you feeling today, Charlotte?" she asked with a fake smile. "Better," Charlotte replied, happy to be home. The doctor nodded and began her examination, shining lights in Charlotte's eyes and listening to her chest. She poked and prodded without saying a word. When she finished, the doctor said, "I know you're tired, Charlotte. Before you go back to sleep, though, I need you to tell me what happened in the street. Did they do anything to you?" Charlotte looked at her dad and opened her mouth to reply, but stopped. What would they do if she told them the truth? She was now linked to the entire collective, which could mean they had access to her as well. Would they think she had been brainwashed or turned into a spy for the aliens? "I don't remember," she lied. "I'm sorry, but I'm really tired. Maybe something will come back to me later." The doctor was about to speak when her dad said, "Okay, get some sleep. We'll talk later." The doctor flashed her dad to look, but they both left. Then she heard the door being locked from the outside. Though she was tired and her head hurt, Charlotte stayed awake. The locked door meant they didn't trust her, but could she blame them? Would she have trusted someone who spent an entire week in an alien's dread? Probably not. She checked the windows, but they were sealed shut. Could she break the glass without them noticing? Why was she thinking of escaping? She was safe in the compound, but this room felt more like a prison. Maybe it was just some animal instinct to flee when trapped. She wasn't going anywhere, so she decided to try and sleep. As she laid in bed, her mind wandered. and she found herself thinking about the information she had picked up from the link. She knew that the collective had not been involved in the destruction of any of the civilizations. Time after time, they had watched what was happening from a distance without stepping in. She didn't know whether that was worse. The collective had felt incredibly sad, helpless, and frustrated watching those events unfold. Locked in her room in the resistant compound. It was a feeling she understood all too well.